time for my weekly palettes video. So for those of you who haven't seen this video before, it's just where I share with you what palettes I've used throughout the week, so you can just kind of see how I use my collection. I'm also kind of intending this to be a tool for down the road when I'm emotionally, mentally ready to do a palette declutter. So just as a tool to help me see what I've been using over a period of time, what looks I've created, what I've liked, what I haven't. So yeah, let's jump into it. So this week at work has been absolutely insane, and I've been pretty much just doing one or two looks over and over again, and that is mainly using this palette right here, which is called the Urban Decay On The Run Mini Palette. This is in Detour. But this is it's one of three, but this is definitely the one that speaks to me the most. And I have been doing two different looks. I've been going with a more matte, subtle look, and then I've been going, if I'm feeling a little fancy, I've been going with one that's just pretty much the same look, just amped up a little bit. So for the first look, I take this shade called Off the Grid and just put it all over my lash line, or all over my lid from lash line to brow bone. I'll use Escape as a transition. I'll buff Confidential in the outer V, outer crease underneath my lash line, and then I'll just blow it all out with Escape. And then I'll take this shade right here, which is one of my favorite shades, called Switchback. It's so beautiful and subtle, or it can be really intense depending on how you apply it, but I've been just taking it lightly with a pencil brush and just putting it right on my inner corner just to make it pop a little bit. And for the days when I wanted to amp it up a little bit, what I would do is just do that same base look with those three colors, and then I would take 16th Street, which is a beautiful coppery, kind of cool tone coppery bronze, very beautiful. I'll wet it down with a flat brush, apply it on the outer part of my lid. I will then take Dash with a wet brush and apply it on the inner part of my lid, blend them together. And then again, I will do Switchback in the inner corner, but what I do is I kind of combine it with Plunge, which is just a beautiful dark smoky teal type of color, and these two together, it's kind of the same effect. It's just amped up a little bit with a little bit more intensity of color, because Plunge is definitely too dark to go in the inner corner by itself, but when you mix it with Switchback, it's beautiful. So those two looks have been kind of the majority of what I've been wearing this week, just because I have been working about 11-hour days at work, so it's just kind of simple, easy. This is what I've been reaching for. Another palette that I've just been enjoying playing with is this C Color 14 color eyeshadow palette called Dope. I haven't heard anything about this. I got this at Burlington for $4.99, and I usually don't get these little no-name palettes, but this one really kind of spoke to me. It's got a mirror in there, and I have played around with this. I have played around with some of the shimmer shades. The mattes I'm really impressed with. They blend out really beautifully. So the look I created with this palette this week, I took this shade as my transition. I deepened it up with this shade right here, which is a beautiful mustardy yellow, very gorgeous. And then I kind of mixed these two together, and because I just wanted a little bit of pink in there, so I kind of just blended those into my transition with a fluffy brush. I then went in with this shade right here to deepen up the crease, the outer V, kind of deepen up the outer portion of my lid. And then I just went back and deepened everything up with these two shades. So I just kind of playing around to create kind of a pinky mustardy type of color scheme to the eye, and it really worked out well. And for my lid, I took this shade right here, which is kind of a chunky mess, but it's really pretty. It's like a rosy pink with a gold reflect in it. Wet it down, put it on the majority of my lid, and then I took this shimmer shade right here, which is a really pretty soft shimmery shade. Again, applied it wet to the inner corner, inner part of the lid, and just right underneath the brow bone. And then for underneath the lash line, I just kind of blew it out with these two colors. So this color tighter to my lash line, and I kind of blew it out with this color and just softened it up with that peachy pink. And I was really happy with the look. I'm really quite impressed with the quality of these shadows for the price that I paid. So I'm excited to play around with this more. Let me know if you guys have heard of this brand. I haven't heard of it. So just something I randomly picked up. So it's been pretty basic this week. Again, work has been crazy, but as a stress reliever, I like to come home and play with makeup. So there's some other palettes that I've really been playing around with and just having some fun with this week, and I want to share those looks with you as well, because I have used them this week, just I haven't worn them out of the house, if that makes any sense. The first palette I want to talk about is the Juvia's Place, the Tribe by Juvia's Place. This palette is stunning. I know I've talked about, I've been kind of just really drawn to the greens lately, and this palette is just gorgeous. So I really just played around with focusing with the greens. I think there's really a lot of these shades, except for these two oranges, every shade in this palette has kind of a green turn to it. But I just kind of focused on these right here. So what I did is I took this beautiful neon green and just laid that down as a transition. I went in, and that one's called Masai. This one is Tootsie, and I took that on a more dense fluffy brush and really packed that into the crease and really blended that out, kind of laid that down on the outer third of the lid. And then I took San, which is this shade right here, which is a beautiful deep cool tone forest green. It's just gorgeous. It's got a lot of like kind of blue leaning in there. Really deepened up my crease, the outer part of my lid, and I took that right along my lower lash line. I then blended out my lower lash line with Tootsie and Masai. So for my lid, I took Kuba, which is this beautiful blue green deep metallic shade, absolutely stunning. I wet it down and put it on the inner or the outer 2/3 of my eye. I then took Koro, which is this gorgeous metallic duochrome shade. It's like a green yellow with a slight blue shift in there. It's absolutely stunning. And I wet it down again, put it on the inner corner of my eye, and then blended it over Kuba to kind of create a transition shade. It was really, really gorgeous. I really enjoyed the look. And just to finish it off, just because I wanted a little bit of definition between what was on the eyelid and what was on the inner corner, I did use my Buxom shade, and I want to say this is in Room Service. So I took this shade, which is just a little bit lighter and brighter than, let me compare the two. Then Koro, it's just got a little bit different vibe to it. This one's a little bit warmer, and I found that this was really beautiful on the inner corner of the eye and just really complemented the look. And then I just finished it off with Brulee from Wet n Wild underneath the brow bone, and I was really, really impressed with these shadows. Juvia's Place never ceases to impress me, and this palette is definitely no exception. It's just, this is just stunning. I'm loving this trend towards greens that's happening right now because this is gorgeous. The next palette I played around with is the new Riviera palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I enjoyed this palette. I've got to say, this palette I feel like is reaching new levels of powderiness even for ABH, which is fine. Doesn't bother me, just a heads up. It's really, really powdery. But I do love that they're kind of branching out into these really bright, vivid colors. I think a lot of people want to see more of this from ABH, myself included. I'm always interested by what they come out with. So, you know, this is just kind of plays into that. And guys, just to show you, I just want to show you what the kick up looks like in the pan. And I'm pretty gentle with my eyeshadows. So I'm really gentle with my shadows. So there is a whole bunch of kick up, and it surprised me even for ABH. But I enjoyed the look. I like the way their shadows perform. So I did go in with a fluffy brush with this shade right here called Estate, just to start laying down my transition. I then deepened it up with the Coastline shade, which is just a kind of a warmer, deeper version. I also went in with Monte Carlo, again, just slowly building up that transition shade. This is definitely more of a pinky version of Coastline. And then I went in with a deeper, denser crease brush and went in with Cans, which is a beautiful purple. It's absolutely gorgeous. I feel like it's very vibrant on the eye. I feel like it didn't blend out quite as well as I'm used to ABH mattes blending out, but we got it there. It just needed a little bit more love. So I did blend this all in my outer crease, on my outer part of my lid, all the way through my transition, lower lash line. I then blended out my lower lash line. Again, same thing with a little bit of Monte Carlo Coastline, and eased it up and kind of blew everything out with Estate. I then went with my lid, and I had to go into some of these beautiful shimmer shades. So in all of these I applied wet. So I went in with a brush, picked up the shadow, sprayed it down. So I went in with Seychelles on the outer portion of my lid and blended that into Can. I then took Mediterranean, and like I did with the Tribe palette, I kind of blended it over Seychelles and into the inner corner, or the inner portion of the lid, to kind of create that really pretty transition. And then I went in with Seaside, just slightly on the very, very inner part of my lid, just to kind of create that ombre, that pretty kind of hazy blue and purple kind of look I was going for, and I was really impressed with it, with how it turned out and how the shimmers layered. So again, this is not, I have not used every shade in this palette. This is not a review of this palette. It's just first impressions. And then I went in with Sails and just put that right underneath my brow bone. And again, like I did with the Tribe palette, I felt like there was not an all over lid color for me, so I did tone down Sails underneath the brow bone with a little bit of Brûlée from Wet n Wild. And then I did go in with another Buxom Duochrome, which these shades are just awesome, and I think they lend themselves so well to the palette. This is in the shade La La Lavish, and it just went with kind of the purples and blues I was going for in the inner corner. I just put that on my inner corner with a pencil brush. Really happy with how that look turned out as well. So I'm excited to play around with this palette a little bit more and really see what it can do. Now the final palette I want to talk about is actually the one I'm wearing today, and it is beautiful outside. It's like spring is here. We were about to go get some good Mexican food, sit on a patio somewhere. So I just wanted to go with something a little bit warm and summery, but pretty simple, matte. You know, it's Sunday fun day. Sunday's an easy day. But today I used the Warrior 2 by Juvia's Place. Again, I love Juvia's Place, and I'm really impressed with this. This is their first all matte palette. I really I'm liking it so far. Just in the shades I used, they were easy to blend out. They were smooth, they were soft. It's not my favorite matte formula, but it's pretty darn good, especially for the price and the amount of product you get. So what I did is I just took Zazz and I just took that all over the eye from lash line to brow bone. It's a little bit more stark than what I would usually like to use underneath the brow bone, but because it's a more red look, I wanted everything to look very awake and alive today, so it's not looking sickly. And then I took I apologize if I mispronounce this, Daura, and I just took that with a fluffy brush and blended that all in my transition. I took it all along my lower lash line, and then with a more dense crease brush, I kind of deepened it up into the crease in the outer V. And then with that same brush, just my BR250 is when I say it, more densely packed or more dense blending brush. It's going to be my BRC 250 from Coastal Scents. And then with that same brush, I took Jamada, and I just took that right on the lower or the outer part of the lid, the crease, and just really deepened it up. I also took it on just a flat packing brush and just took it right along the outer portion of my lower lash line. And I did want to wake up the look just a little bit today, so I did pair it with my Kat Von D metal, crushed metal, right? Is that what these are called? Metal crushed eyeshadows in Thunderstruck, and I just took that in my inner corner and along the inner portion of my lid. I didn't wet it down because I just wanted it to brighten up and I didn't want it to be like a shimmer look. I wanted it to lend itself to be more matte. So that's what I used today with the Warrior 2 by Juvia. So I'm really happy with this palette so far. Again, I love the Warrior palette. I think it's one of the most perfect neutral palettes ever, and I think if you are a Juvia's Place lover, this is a great companion palette to any other palette that you have in your collection, because it's just going to lend itself to complete looks or make these other palettes that are so beautiful and have such interesting color stories maybe a little bit more accessible or a little bit more versatile as far as everyday wear. All right, everybody, so those are just the palettes that I used this week. I hope this was interesting for you. Definitely let me know if you have any questions, or let me know what you're using this week. I am finishing up working on my review of the Lime Prime Venus XL2, because I know I did have some people request that. I wanted to make sure I did a really thorough job, so that might not be up this week. If it's not up by the end of this week, it'll be up by the beginning of next week, not this coming week, but the week after. So I just want to make sure I do a good job. I'm trying to really improve my review skills, because, you know, if you guys are going to purchase something based on my recommendation, I mean, I take that very seriously, so I don't want to mess that up, and I want to make sure I'm giving you a complete picture of the palette. So be looking for that. That is coming. I have some other fun ideas coming up. I did decide to do some more declutters. I know in my last declutter video, I was like, oh, I'm happy with my face collection as far as blushes, highlighters, bronzers, foundations, things like that, and I just got the decluttering bug and I just kept going. So there's going to be some more declutters coming, and just to really clean up my collection. I'm really happy with how that went. So look for those this week. But guys, I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you've had an amazing weekend. Have a great Monday. Have a great rest of your week. I love you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.